It's podcast. You're listening to Gorehead and the Wiener. Hello. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode, Gorehead and the Wiener.
Gorehead and
Today,
the Wiener, drinking hot coffee.
Yeah, Chris is drinking some hot coffee, and we are going to be talking about CANDYMAN.
CANDYMAN, who wants candy?
Who wants some candy?
I'm not sure
me.
finger snapping is. Is it anything to do with CANDYMAN? But
no, we're just singing a
there's
song.
There's not really
about...
any like happy music playing throughout the movie. There's actually more like horrifying orchestral like Omen style music where it's like
the first thing I thought of actually was Beetlejuice.
Oh, which is probably
so perfect because you have
amazing.
to say Beetlejuice 3 times in order to summon him, and you have to say CANDYMAN 5 times to summon him. But the the music was very like that Tim Burton-esque. What's that dude's name that always does his music? He was in Oingo Boingo.
Yes, he was in Oingo Boingo, but he was also Jack Skellington and made Nightmare Before Christmas. The name eludes me. It's like on the tip of my tongue, too.
I know.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman. Yeah. Got it.
Danny.
Eventually got there.
Dan the Elfman. He's
Dan the
guy.
Elfman makes some good music. He made the Batman soundtrack.
I like his music. It's a bit cheesy, but like in a good, in an ominous way.
It's orchestral. It's a little over the top, which is CANDYMAN. Because it's like I would say like the vibe of CANDYMAN in general kind of gives the feel of almost a bit like a stage play where everything is very dramatic, or it's kind of almost they try to make it kind of Shakespearean. Like a lot of the shots are like as the movie goes on are very dramatic, like close-ups of faces, and it's always followed by this like very classical orchestral music, and it's usually her like these paintings and art is very big in the overall theme of it, so it's kind of like this art piece almost. The movie is like an art piece. It's not like a normal movie.
That's probably also a good point with how we were saying it reminded us a lot of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Because that is very much, if you watch that movie, is very much like a stage play adaptation of a movie. It's super, like that is even more than this movie for sure. But there's just a lot of running themes and similarities in both the storyline and just the way it's presented too.
Well, the monster
in certain aspects.
Tragedy is like a big part of it, and kind of just victims, like even the monster.
Yeah, and the way that history ties into everything.
Yes.
And then also the play-like aspect of it as well. So it's kind of cool, and we won't give spoilers away. Hopefully, until I get into the gore aspects and then into the more detailed summary. But I will let you give it away, Chris, with the movie intro.
I would just say essentially the movie is about a nosy white woman that just won't leave it alone and thinks she can do whatever she wants, and then reality comes crashing in very quickly when she is naive and I guess dumb enough to invoke a happy little entity named CANDYMAN, and they have a wonderful romance that stretches beyond time and space.
Ooh. Wow. Okay.
It's a whimsical romance. Again, just another romance.
So whimsical.
I just keep showing you romance movies, not horror movies. They're romance movies.
This one was a lot easier to watch than The Fly, though. And
well, yes, and that's why I picked. Okay, well, I'll just say my personal experience with CANDYMAN is, again, my mom showed this to me when I was a little kid with my buddy Paul and Tyler, and we watched this on Halloween. after we went trick-or-treating, and it scared the shit out of us, and did not want to, like, we tried to say Candyman in the mirror, we could only say it 3 times, and then we ran away, but we did try, and we could not do it. So I dare anyone to watch this goddamn movie and then say Candyman in the mirror 5 times, because that'll prove of whether you're a real atheist or not. Because if you don't truly believe in ghosts, go into the goddamn mirror and say Candyman 5 times after this. It's like, I'm not even religious, but I'm not going to say that shit just in the chance that I'm going to get fucking murdered by Candyman. I'm not taking it.
Exactly. I'm
No,
not taking that chance. I don't even like saying his name. I remember, like,
I don't even like saying his name. Like, once. There's a mirror right behind you.
There's one behind me. There's one right next to me, because I have to have, like, a mirror for when I'm animating to make expressions.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
but,
my God. You could summon him at any moment.
I know. When we were watching it, because I was sitting here when we were watching it, and I would try to, like, say something about Candyman, I would specifically be like the candy guy, or
Candy guy,
candy boy,
candy dude,
bonbon boy.
bonbon boy. This is the French version.
Bon voyage, bonbon boy.
Bonbon boy. I would love to see someone say bonbon boy in the mirror 5 times super seriously.
Oh, it's a bonbon boy.
Bonbon boy. Bonbon boy. For some reason, I just imagine like a giant piece of like old candy wrapper showing up, like one of those with like the twirly sides and like the peppermint middle. It's just like murders you. It's just like a giant peppermint candy.
So stupid. Watch out, or the bonbon boy will come and say bon voyage to you.
You went from like German to Russian within like the same sentence. You
I don't know.
Started German because you were like, yeah, chocolate German, but then like
bonbon,
bon voyage,
bon voyage in a Russian accent.
You're like, I need to switch it up to Russian now.
It's like a Russian person trying to speak French.
I read this article in the news the other day about how this like hilarious like shitty Russian spy got caught or like by the American government because he said he was from Brazil, but he had like a Russian accent. They're like, you sound Russian. He's like, no, I am from Brazil. He's like, I am Brazilian boy.
I am a Brazilian man.
Yeah, he's like, don't you know?
What do you think? I am not
football.
I enjoy all the fruits in the salads.
Yeah, I love the delicious. Big bums.
The big ones. Only the big. Okay, I need to stop. It's not even an accent of anything anymore. I've told people the only accents I can accurately do is like a hick Canadian and British. Just those.
And British, yeah.
The other ones are they're very inconsistent, and it just flows from one thing to another. It doesn't make any sense.
Fluid accents.
It's a very fluid accents. But yeah, now we can get into the gore summary.
About Candyman.
Yes, now we can get into something about Candyman. So the gore rating, and I'll just say, we see this in every episode, but this is generally where the spoilers will start, because we're watching horror movies with gory aspects to them, and usually the gory aspects will sort of at least spoil the plot of the movie. So
you'll definitely know when people die. Yeah.
Yes. This one isn't as bad when it comes to the plot points, because the gore is a lot less. But basically, so this one, I actually gave it a 5 out of 5 for gory wieners. I could maybe go down to 4.5 or 4, but I feel like with this movie, if you've traveled along with us in the gory movies that we've watched, this one definitely feels like one of the more chill ones, even more chill than the first one we ever watched, which was Color Out of Space.
Oh yeah. I would say like graphic wise, it's definitely like pretty tame. It's more kind of like the overall content and tone of it that makes it like, I think, last well. Like the reason why it's still kind of popular to this day. I think it's like, yeah, the content is different. Like you don't really have a lot of like racial based horror movies. Like I think done I'd say as well as it can be done with this. So yeah, it's definitely not super gory, but I'd say like I don't know, it's always lasted with me. So I think it's definitely one of my like favorite horror movies. Just I don't know,
It's
I always
really
remembered it
good.
since I was a kid. Just like the overall feel of it. I just like it's always enjoyable when I watch it, and I've watched it a bunch. But like even when I watched it like with you, I was just like, oh yeah, I still really like this movie.
Yeah. No, it's funny because, yeah, I've said this before. The reason why I'm doing this podcast with Chris is because I really love horror movies and I love thrillers and spooky things, but it's always the gore that stops me from enjoying it. So this is actually, I think, a perfect movie if you're like me and you have a hard time with realistic, relatable gore.
Yeah.
You'll be able to watch this one pretty easily because there is
Yeah.
some gory aspects, but
It's very toned
I'll
down.
get into it. But it's you don't really see the action of anything happening. You will see dead bodies, and that's most of it.
Yeah, it's like it's a very minimally gory movie.
Yeah,
It's not,
and it's still scary. Like it
yeah,
is definitely still scary, but I was very pleasantly surprised that they didn't really milk the gore too much. It was effective without
yeah,
having to be super over the top. So,
yeah,
yeah, we'll get into the gore. So, the first thing you see is not like too gory, but you see his hook hand. So,
oh yes,
um,
Stump.
can Bon Bon Boy,
Bon
Candyman,
Bon Boy. Hello, Bon Bon Boy.
Bon Boy. He has his hand is chopped off, and there's like a hook shoved into
Jammed in
his
the
arm,
stump.
jammed into the stump, and you see like the aftermath of that. It's not like you see it happening, but
It's
you do just
very
see the kind of
chunky.
grossness of
Yeah,
his arm, and it's
it's not a clean
nasty.
cut.
And no, it's
It's
pretty nasty and chunky, but it's like
yeah, and
it
his hook
it's
hook is
not,
very big. He has a very
and
big
it's
hook.
very bloody. Like it's got all that like dried blood
It's
on
very
it.
goopy. Yeah, yeah, it's very gross looking. Like,
It's not. It does not look sanitary.
no,
So
no.
but again, they don't draw like a ton of attention to it. It's sort of like he's a spooky monster with a weird hook hand. So
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, and
you know,
he's not like Jason or something where he's just like
no,
running after people or something. He's a very he's a minimalist monster. He only appears
he's
when he has to.
minimalist. He's a classy one. He's a classy one.
Yeah, yeah, he is a class. He is a classy one. Because
He
dear
is.
God, we might as well just start by saying if you're gonna watch Candyman, watch it for the friggin' villain's voice. That dude's voice is
Yeah.
velvet. It is amazing. He has the
So
best voice of
nice.
any villain. I think that's also one of the reasons why I've loved that movie so much. It's just like, man, that guy has like a really great voice, and he sounds
Like,
so good
why
for the
is
part.
he kind of sexy?
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's like wearing his lapel. He's got his big
Yeah, he's like very
furry
well
jacket on. He's
dressed and
pretty
he's
fashionable too,
calm.
other than his
Yeah,
giant
fashionable
stumpy
for
hook
the
hand.
80s. Yeah,
Yeah,
just that stump hand. We can take care of that. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. But he's like, oh yes. But he's always saying really messed up stuff. He's like, be my murder.
Yes.
It's like,
Please be my victim.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. That's what he says. Yeah.
he says it so like sultry, and
Sensually.
every time he says it, like the main lady, Helen,
Yeah, yeah.
she's like so like into it.
Enamored.
You can
Yeah,
see her
yeah,
just like melting under his
yeah.
voice.
That's actually
It's
another good
just,
comparison to Dracula that you mentioned
yeah,
that because like she's kind of like Mina and he's kind of like
yeah,
Dracula and he's slowly kind of
exactly.
like enticing her
Yeah,
throughout
because
the movie.
she didn't really want anything to do with him, but he's
Yeah.
sort of like seducing her, and it's like she can't resist him. And it's sort of you feel that dynamic.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and as we progress through the story, you will find out a little more about that.
yes. And so the next thing you see is a severed dog head. So that's a
So that's
fair warning.
fun.
If
Yeah,
you
that's not your thing.
I know many people who cannot handle seeing
Animal death.
animal horror, and you don't see it happen. You just see a severed dog head. I'm trying to remember the breed name. You remember the breed name?
Oh,
it's a
God,
very
no.
common breed.
It's very golden retriever. No, that'd be too sad.
No.
You can't have a severed golden retriever head. That'd be too sad.
That would be way too sad. I mean, it's still sad.
Yeah, but golden
Anyways.
retriever sad. That's just extra sad.
Golden retrievers are just the happiest
yeah,
sunshines on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. They're sunshines. Exactly. They're just
they're the happiest sunshines.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
yeah, whatever. Dead dog. Moving on.
Dead
whatever
dog.
It is.
We see a neck cut, kind of. It's really cheap. You see, like,
it's really cheap.
Yeah, Candyman is like trying to cut the girl's Helen's neck, and it's you don't really see much. You don't even see like the separation of skin. You just see like blood.
Yeah.
And then we see her friend gets murdered. Well, you don't see it happening. You see her dead, and she's got like guts spilling out. So she's been like cut from chest to gut down. And she's blue.
She's
I
blue.
remember seeing it in the movie, and I was like, "Whoa, she's blue." You don't always see that in movies. You just see them like freshly killed.
Yeah,
blue.
like post dead. Yeah. She's actually like looks like a corpse.
Bright blue.
Blue.
Not bright. She's blue.
Looks like a blue man.
She is a Smurf. She turned into a Smurf.
That'd be amazing.
And then you see this one. I don't know why. I think this one bothered me the most because you see needles going into skin, but it's like you see them inject it and then you see them pull the needle out, and you see like the skin sticking to the needle as it's being pulled out, and like, oh, that was gross. That was gross. That's like I could take like a 0.25 point off 5 out of 5 gory wieners just for the needles.
It's too gross.
You see a doctor guy at like an insane asylum. You see him get murdered. But again, he just kind of gets stabbed from behind.
Yeah.
Don't see anything too over the top. And then we see the bee rib cage of Bon Bon Boy.
Bon Bon Boy.
You see, his like he opens up his trench coat and he just like he's a rib cage with just filled with bees.
Nicolas Cage would hate him.
Yeah. The Wicker Man. And then you see, you see burnt Helen, the main character. She's burnt. And
she gets real burnt. No hair.
Looks like she's scalped. Yeah, no hair, Helen. And then at the end you see dead Trevor, which made me happy.
Yes. Oh, it's so satisfying. Fucking Trevor.
Trevor.
Trevor's such a piece of shit. It's stupid.
Trevor. I hate Trevor. He also has I'm sorry to anyone named Trevor, but that is just like, it's a really easy name to hate. If you're going to name a character Trevor, it's just
it's
so easy to hate a Trevor.
He's always wearing like sweaters and just like he's like this douchey professor and
Trevor
having sex with one of his students and
Trevor.
Freaking
Trevor.
Then they paint their apartment the ugliest pink color possible. Disgusting colors. God damn it, Trevor. Piece of shit.
God damn it, Trevor. So he gets killed. I'm pretty sure he just like his throat is slit or something, but you don't you don't see a ton of it happening. You mostly see the aftermath of just like he's sitting in a bathroom and it's just all bloody. So that's the gore. It's really not that extreme.
Yeah. It's just like the audio more than anything else. Like when Candyman kills people, it's like this like very like again guttural, almost kind of sexual sound, which will make a lot of sense since you actually picked up on the fact that it's by Clive Barker, or at least based off something by Clive Barker, which I did not know
immediately. Yeah, because the last movie we watched was Hellraiser, which it was written and directed by Clive Barker, and actually this movie, when we were watching it in the credits, you just see based off of a novel by Clive Barker, and it's actually based off of one of his short stories, and he's apparently created a lot of these books called Books of Blood. And this one was actually like a short story in volume 5 of Books of Blood called Forbidden. So
Oh,
if you're
volume
curious, you can
5.
listen to. Yeah, it's the first story in the 5th book.
Wow.
So there you go. If you're curious, you can listen to it.
Maybe I'll buy some Clive Barker books.
Right? He's a good writer.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah.
Pretty impressed. And yeah, so I'll get into the detailed summary of it, and I'm gonna try to keep it concise this time and not like drag it on, because I don't know. I like really getting into it, but sometimes it drags a little bit. So we're just gonna give a brief summary so that we can focus on more of the gore rather than giving like a
although in this movie there's not a lot of gore, so
I know.
you well no you go in depth as much as you want for sure, just like topics.
Yeah. I'll try not to make it drag. I mean, I feel like this one is an easier one to go through quickly.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty like, well, again, like the story is like very simple overall, like the actual.
Yeah, it is fairly simple. It's good, but it's well done.
Yeah.
So the main character is Helen, and she is Helen. She's working on what's it called, like a
paper.
She's researching a paper for her class in college for
she's just
on urban legends.
35-year-old college student.
Yeah, it was a little, I thought maybe it was for like something she's doing at her job, but no, she's researching about urban legends, and she's trying to find some local ones that took place where they are in Chicago. And she finds this urban legend about the Candyman, and it seems to always be taking place in the same area in Chicago. These murders that are sort of blamed around him are happening.
Hermione Green.
Cabrini Green's public housing development in Chicago. Yeah. So that's where they're sort of all taking place. So she's starting to research them. Let me see. Yeah. So the legend is basically just, if you say his name 5 times in the mirror, he will basically come for you and murder you. And it seems to only, these murders being blamed on him are only happening in the Cabrini Green neighborhood. So she's deciding to research this with her friend Bernadette.
Well, and they're generally black people getting murdered as well.
Right. And that's also because that neighborhood is all black people. Yeah. And Candyman himself is a black man, which I'll dig further into the history of him in a bit.
Another racially charged episode.
Yeah. So the first thing we see is just Helen visiting her husband's class. He's a professor at a university. And yeah, his stupid name is Trevor, and he's
such a
surrounded by
face.
Yeah, I know. I was like, why are you with him? He's such an asshole. He's rude. He's like kind of unattractive.
Yeah. It's like he looks like your dad. Like he has dad face because he's got the receding hair and
no redeeming qualities. He's no punchable face Trevor.
Yeah, it's like he's really arrogant and cocky, but he really shouldn't be because he looks like a wiener.
And he's flirting with his female students and like kind of just like brushing it off. It's like, oh no.
Cool.
She's just in love with me, but like don't worry about it. It just happens.
It's like, it's like, why would you even consider that? It's like if you're saying that means you're thinking about it, you creepy weirdo.
And so basically Helen is like talking to him about this thing that she wants to research, and Trevor is just like, well, that's stupid. Everybody's done that before. Like it's been done so many times. Why are you researching this? And she's like, well, I feel like I can do it better. I can do a better job at covering this.
She's compelled.
So she's compelled to write this paper on the Bonbon Man, Bonbon Boy.
The Bonbon Boy. Hello, Bonbon Boy.
Bonbon Boy. So Helen and Bernadette, they go back to Helen's place, and
Bernadette's her friend.
Bernadette is the friend that's doing the paper with her.
Yeah.
And they decide to test it out. And Helen says the name 5 times, but Bernadette chickens out.
Bernadette.
And I
Good fun.
believe they look behind their mirror, and there's like an empty room.
Well, they go. Well, they go to
mirror.
because she researches the project floor plans for like what the project buildings were made out of, and they found out that there was actually like undeveloped rooms, and you could find that you could take out your bathroom mirror and see them, because she found out that the building she was living in was a gentrification building, essentially, that was a previous project that got turned into a neighborhood for white people, and that's kind of like part of like where they live used to be the project. So that's kind of another layer to the movie, is that they took over what used to be a poor neighborhood.
Okay, yeah, perfect, good background lesson. And because I watched this for the first time last week, so I'm trying to, or 2 weeks ago, so I'm trying to like jog my memories.
Don't worry, it's burned into mine. I've watched it so many times. It'll never go away.
So they've been researching the recent murders that have happened in the Cabrini Green neighborhood, and so basically they both decide to go and visit this really shitty apartment building where all these
projects. They go to the projects, and it is they actually go to the projects to film, and that's part of the reason why the movie is so good and I think holds up so well, is that they actually film in the ghettos, and it is very sketchy looking.
Really sketchy. Yeah, like they go in and they find the apartment where the most recent person was murdered, and it's just completely dilapidated. It's just a mess. Like it looks like it had been maybe inhabited like 10 years ago. It's like so gross. So it was probably kind of just already a slummy apartment that this person was living in, and they were murdered. And basically Helen goes into the bathroom and discovers that behind the mirror again there's like a little hallway, and she goes through and she discovers
but that's like the hallway is the CANDYMAN room.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, sorry.
It has the giant painting of his face. It's just scary.
She goes through, it's like this little weird, like you can't even tell what's happening. It's really dark, and then she goes through this hole, and when she breaks through and she looks behind, she sees she's walked through the mouth of like this. There's a huge painting on the wall on the other side of the Candyman's face, and she basically walked through his mouth. And so it's just like this weird, creepy thing, and
the painting is so creepy. It's such a creepy thing. Eyes they have like these big whites
staring at you, and she's in this huge room, and she doesn't know what to make of it. So she just kind of looks around.
Gothic music playing during this time as
well. That's not what it sounds like.
You should just redo the soundtrack and just add your own. Emma
so she goes to Emma tracks. Ooh, I'm blurry.
Oh, out of focus.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay.
It's so weird. Your camera just decided to not focus on you.
He did not like my singing. It's fine.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not even going to entertain.
I'm out of here. Emma, shut up. So, anyways, so she goes back, and they hear someone coming into the apartment that was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And it very fucked up apartment, and it ends up that it's just the neighbor coming in. And it's like, "What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why are you here?"
Yeah.
Thinking that they're like these reporters that are trying to get like a news
story. People thought they were cops, and
people thought they were cops. It's like people like you don't ever come here unless you want something.
Yeah.
And so they follow her back to her apartment and knock on the door, and she actually is kind enough to let them in and talk to them, and basically she just kind of gives them like a brief rundown on
Mm-hmm.
kind of what happened, and she's got like a newborn baby, and she's just trying to, create the best life that she can for this child. And yeah, you feel real bad for her that she has to live in this shitty
Yeah,
apartment
she's
with
really
with
nice
her
single
newborn
mom.
baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really nice single mom. Luckily, she has a very giant dog to protect her.
And she has a giant dog.
Yeah.
That's not foreshadowed at all from a previous. Yeah. Anyways.
So I wonder what's gonna happen to that dog.
I'm very good at keeping secrets. Ooh. um, um, yeah, and then so hard. I'm reading my notes, and my notes are so shitty. I was like, the
Woman
first
goes
note,
to place, talks to
yes,
person.
exactly. My first note is stupid boyfriend Trevor. It's like, great. I'm so glad I went into detail about this.
I felt it was more helpful at the time than it is now.
I know, it's been so long. I'm like, what the
I write notes like that all the time. They don't make any sense to me after the fact.
And we, after this, we learn the true history of Candyman. I believe Helen is going for dinner with stupid Trevor and his stupid friends.
Stupid friends, their stupid faces.
And their stupid faces. And his one friend had already apparently done like a paper on him and was
Dumb
explaining
friend.
the true history to Helen. And basically, he was he a slave or just
He was
like
an
a
artist. He
poor?
was a traveling artist who
Okay,
was like,
traveling poor artist.
and yeah, well, yeah, he was pretty successful, and that's why he was hired by a white family of all people to paint for their family portrait, and that's when he fell in love.
He falls in love with the daughter of that rich family.
White
Um,
daughter to a black
the
man in the
white daughter.
1800s.
Yeah.
That's
And
not gonna
yeah,
end
the
well.
father was not too pleased,
Less
and
than pleased.
his reaction to that was to cut off his hand,
Hired a bunch of
stuff a
people.
hook into it, and then stuffed his body full of bees, and then burnt him at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pyre.
I think they put like honey on his body, so the bees like buried into him and like some
Right.
terrible or something
That's
disgusting.
nice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So he had a
nice.
real bad time, poor Candyman. So,
And they
right,
spread his ashes around the neighborhood, which is
which,
now where the Cabrini Green neighborhood
yeah,
is. Yeah.
exactly. So he's still
So that's his
haunting
history.
his old neighborhood. Poor Candyman. He's a pretty sympathetic villain, but if you so
God.
he's essentially like the Grudge in a Japanese horror movie, where he's just like this really pissed off ghost, and he'll just kill anybody. He doesn't really care. He's just like, I'm really pissed off because I got murdered in a terrible way, so I want to murder as many people as
My
possible.
my life was shitty and unjust, and the shit that
Yeah.
happened to me is horrific, and I need to spread my pain to everyone.
Yeah, yeah, that's essentially it. That's exactly what the Grudge
Yeah.
is. It's like, I'm just going
And
to,
that's kind of his vibe too. And
yeah.
yeah, which yeah, that's fun. And
That's fun.
and then we so she's learned this, and she's continuing to research more about the Candyman, and she goes talking to this little boy who
Yeah,
seems to kind of understand the neighborhood a little
yeah.
bit, and she's like, "Oh, there's attack in that bathroom over there," and he's like, "Yeah, but probably shouldn't go in there." She's like, "Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine." She goes in there, she gets attacked,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
just
very obviously seems like just a dude that's just holding a
yeah, it's
hook.
just like three dudes with the hook, and he just like cracks her across the face and gives her a pretty fucked up eye.
Yeah, but it seemed nothing like what you hear in the stories. And
No.
and then eventually Helen is visited in a parking garage by another man with a hook. But this one seems much more ominous and much more ghost-like, and he has a voice that sounds like velvet.
It's like
so
ethereal. It's like otherworldly.
Nice.
It kind of has like, yeah.
And it's almost like it's seductive, but the stuff he's saying to her is like, be my next victim.
Yeah, and the sound editing on it is so cool because it kind of like envelops like all the sound. It's like nothing else is heard but essentially this dude's voice, and it's just like super loud compared to everything else.
Kind of cool. And
yeah, it's effective.
Basically this happens and she seems very like seduced by it, very like into it, and she kind of just like passes out into him and then wakes up in a bunch of blood.
A bunch of blood with the dead dog. The dog is dead.
With a severed dog head right next to her.
Severed dog head.
So nice. Ooh. And she has a knife in her hand. Stands up and she's just hearing all this screaming and crying, and she walks into the next room, and it's the neighbor of the last
nice
person
black
that
lady
was murdered.
Neighbor, just
with the newborn child, and her child is missing. She's standing screaming over the child's
missing crib.
The crib is there, and the child is missing from the crib, but there's blood everywhere, and like this woman is also covered in blood. And as soon as she sees Helen, she's like, "You bet you did it! Where's my kid?" And like blah blah. Then she tries to attack her, and she's got this knife, and then of course in that moment the police break in, and she's like got this knife covered in blood. So yeah, of course she gets arrested. Like it's not looking so good.
No, you're going to jail. You're covered in blood. You have a knife. You severed a dog's head.
And my next note is, in jail, out of jail, thanks Trevor.
In jail, out of jail. It all comes back to Trevor. Trevor the scumbag sends her off to fucking the nut house.
So in jail, out of jail, thanks Trevor. Yeah. So basically, Trevor gets her out of jail is what that means.
No, Trevor doesn't get her out of jail. Trevor's a douchebag that puts her in jail. He puts her in the nut house because he says that she's nuts, and he gets her committed.
Isn't that after the Bernadette one, though?
Oh, that's right. She hasn't in the insane asylum yet. Yeah, Trevor Trevor gets her out of jail. Yeah, she has not.
You're confusing the audience.
I know. Yeah, wait. There's too many times where she goes into different institutions.
No, gotta stick to my original note. In jail, out of jail. Thanks.
Yeah, Trevor. You're right. We should have stuck with it. I doubted your notes. Your notes were all
How
right.
could you doubt my precise notes?
I shouldn't have. I learned my lesson. I promise.
In jail, out of jail.
Good job, Trevor. Dickhead Trevor.
And my next note is what the fuck? I feel like I must have been so tired when I wrote this. Trevor leaves, then hooray, surprise, Candyman comes and slits Helen's throat, kind of.
I think he just like tickles her throat. He's just like tickling it with his
he's got like a knife. He has the knife. He's got the hook.
He doesn't need a knife. It's like, I have this tiny knife. It's like, but you have a giant hook on your hand. Why aren't you using that? He's like, I don't want to.
He like tapes it to the end of his hook, and he's just like
it's like an X-Acto blade. He just like tightens it.
Oh man.
Just duct tape.
I can picture him like on I don't know why I immediately thought of this. I just picture him on a date when he has to like tape a knife to his hook, and like he's got a fork in his other hand. He's just like,
oh, it's so hard to eat with this.
It's like, why don't you use your hook as the knife? It's so uncivilized.
How uncouth. Look how gross this is.
Oh Lord. So anyway, yeah.
Candyman
Bonbon boy.
Bonbon
boy comes boy. Bonbon boy comes boy.
Some German sex
by.
party. Bonbon boy, come boy.
Bonbon boy comes by, and like, yeah, I guess tickles her throat. I thought he was like trying to cut her throat with his like meat hook. And Bernadette is visiting at this moment in time, and Helen is trying to yell like, "No, go away, get out of here."
I think she might kind of poke her neck. Yeah. I don't know
because
why
there's
she
some
can't
bleeding.
talk. Yeah, there is some bleeding. Yeah, because
there's some bleeding happening.
For some reason, she can barely like. She's like whispering.
And basically, Helen blacks out again. What a surprise! And
Helen
she
or
wakes up. Like it always happens, man. That's what they always say.
Dead.
That'd be even better if she was like burnt.
Burned
and dead.
Burnt to death. That would have been perfect.
Burnt to death. Oh Lord. So yeah, she's blacked out, and Helen wakes up, and guess what? Bernadette is murdered. She is brutally murdered, and she's blue, and her stomach is all ripped out.
She got gutted really, really bad.
Yeah, and then so Helen now is in a mental hospital. And we get
Helen's in a mental hospital.
You see close-ups of needles going in her skin, and that was really not the best. And then the she there's a scene where she's like strapped down and she's trying to get out, and then the bonbon boy shows up, and he's like he's hiding underneath the
hiding under. It makes him sound so silly. He's just like, I'm waiting. You just like see him.
The bonbon boy is hiding under the bed. Come and please help me, please.
Bonbon boy. Hello, bonbon boy.
So Helen is trying to prove to this doctor that he's real, so they like wheel her in to talk to this doctor guy, and
and
she's like, I can summon him, I just have to say his name. And she says his name again 5 times in the mirror. And I like, as this is happening, I'm like, what is that gonna help? Like, you're gonna summon him and he's just gonna kill that dude.
It's like they're gonna think you did it anyways.
And that's what happens. He shows up, he murders the doctor dude, and of course her like latches come unlocked. So even because she's like locked into this wheelchair thing, so she can't do anything.
Hannibal Lecter.
And so of course those latches come unlocked. So even if they did come in and see this person murdered, she would have like everything unlatched from her, so it would be like she'd be the only person that could do it. So she jumps out the window, and
because Bonbon Boy breaks the window too. He just like smashes through the window. He's like, "Hey, I'm Bonbon Boy," and he just like smashes.
It's like the scene from The Fly when he like comes through the window.
Regina Davis's abortion room. It's just like the abortion room.
Like, that scene should not be funny, but it is so funny.
Oh my god! Just imagine describing
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so Jeff Goldblum. Like, if no one's ever like describing it to someone who's never seen The Fly but knows who Jeff Goldblum is, it's like, so there's this movie where Jeff Goldblum transforms into a man fly, and like when he's like a fly man, he bursts through this glass window to kidnap a woman who's getting an abortion because she's worried she's going to give birth to a giant fly maggot, which she has a nightmare about. But then he kidnaps her and runs away with her so that they can fuse each other together in a teleporter pod to become one being. It's like that.
It's so all over the place, and it's like the way that he breaks through the window, it's like a super goofy jump scare because he basically just like flops through a window like a starfish and just lands.
Funny. All of his
and you're like, what? It's like a really fucked up version of the Kool-Aid Man breaking through a wall.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you'd think that, like, if you're going through a glass wall, you would like tuck in as much as possible so you don't like smash.
No, you gotta go gotta go face first. You need to show
Yeah,
show
just
everyone how impenetrable you are
exactly.
and
Strong
thick
fly
your
man.
new fly skin is.
It's very thick. I'll give it that. It's very thick and gross.
Oh Lord.
Well,
So
we
yeah, so
digress.
Helen escapes from the mental hospital and she goes home where she discovers that there is a random teenage
Hussy.
20-year-old girl that is painting her entire apartment the color of salmon. Why?
It's so gross. It's the
Why?
worst color
Like
ever.
coral, salmon nastiness.
It's like
The
fuck
whole
you,
apartment,
Trevor,
like
for letting all this
the
happen.
living room, the kitchen, painting it all this nasty pale glass pink.
Oh, it's
And
so gross. It's an awful, awful
um,
color.
Trevor comes in and he's like, "Oh, oh, you're
Yeah,
out. Oh,
yeah.
oh
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Well, and the
I
girl,
wasn't expecting this at
the
all."
girl's reaction's amazing because she's like on a ladder and then she like falls down the ladder and then like
Yeah.
just drops like her paintbrush and is like, ah! She just starts crying in like the corner of the
Crying.
room.
Oh my god.
She doesn't
Yeah,
even
and
say
then Trevor
anything.
comes out and is like, "Oh, what's the matter, babe?
Yeah.
Did you make like a boo-boo or something stupid or
Ew,
like
it's so gross. Like, why would you want a partner that you talk to like that? It's like
a
having a
child?"
child. Like, it's so creepy. It's like,
It's
ugh.
Trevor is the worst.
Yeah,
Um,
Trevor's disgusting.
yeah. And all meanwhile this is happening. So basically Helen kind of just says her piece and leaves. She's been having these visions about
CANDYMAN.
that layer, the
Candyman's layers,
Candyman layer.
his bat cave, Candy
He
Cave,
keeps him she keeps Candy Cave.
the Candy
She
Cave.
keeps she keeps seeing visions of that baby
Yeah,
that was in the
yeah, the missing
neighbor's
baby.
house.
Yeah,
The missing baby. She keeps seeing visions of this baby
yeah.
crying in this layer. So she's like, okay, I just gotta go there. So she goes there, and
Yup.
my next note is another beautiful masterpiece. It says, "Immortality, blah blah blah, bees, blah blah, rib cage of bees."
Bees, blah blah blah, ribcage with bees. Extra bees.
Exclamation point.
There's like bees and then ribcage with bees. It's double bees.
Double B's. So she goes there, she sees the baby, and the whole point of that is basically like, okay, well, I will let this child be free if you agree to be with me for
No,
all
no,
of
no.
eternity.
No, it's not
Right?
even.
No?
No. It's a little different than that because so he keeps telling her that he wants to her to be his victim, and
Yeah.
then so essentially Candyman tells her his like the only way that Candyman exists is that people talk about him. Like
Yeah.
he only exists through the myth of Candyman. So
Yeah.
he wants to create a murder so um, impactful on the community that people will talk about him forever, and that'll essentially
Uh-huh.
make him immortal. And so the murder that he wants to do is the baby, and he wants like Helen to die with the baby because
Oh.
Helen
I
was actually she's like the reincarnation of the white woman that Candyman fell in love with in the
yeah.
1800s, and you see the painting of her, and so that's why Candyman wants her, is because she's actually like. Then that's the Dracula comparison with Mina and Dracula,
Okay.
where Mina is a
I thought
resurrected version of his dead wife, sort of.
I
But
thought at one point he was saying they would be immortal together. He was like, I can give you immortality.
yeah, well, yeah, and that's what he says because he wants her to be with him, essentially.
Yeah.
Which it ends up kind of happening. Spoiler alert.
Kind of happening anyways, but
Yeah,
yeah, okay. I thought for some
he wants
reason
to kill the baby. That's the biggest point, is that he
okay.
doesn't want the baby to live, and that's the one thing that Helen does that kind of is the one happy positive point in the movie.
Right. Bro, that's weird because I thought for some reason like he was saying to her
Yeah.
that he would let the baby go if she would stay with him, but maybe I just
Candyman's a bigger dick than
missed that.
that. He's
He's a
not a very
bigger
nice dude.
asshole.
Yeah,
All right, well,
Candyman, even though
the
like
baby was fucked. He
yeah,
wanted
cause
he wanted
it's
to kill
like
the baby.
you feel bad for Candyman because it's like he had such a terrible death, but at the same time, it's like he's kind of a huge prick himself. He's like,
Why are you doing this?
yeah, because
Okay.
murdering a
Yeah.
baby is like the worst murder that you could do, so that'll leave his name.
And yeah, and then he does the cool thing where he kisses her full of bees.
Yes, the guy's mouth is full of bees. The actor legit had bees in his mouth. Good for him. I wouldn't have done that.
And you get to see he reveals his rib cage full of bees when he opens up his. It's just bees. He's just all bees.
Yeah.
No substance, just bees.
It's just bees. He's just a bunch of bees. He doesn't even have a body. It's just bees.
A bunch of bees in a trench coat.
Like a head, just floating on bees.
The bees are just holding up his head and puppeteering it from the inside.
This come out.
So
gives her a big old bee kiss.
Gives her a big old bee kiss, and then she kind of again wakes up from a blackout and explores this layer. Yeah, she gotta stop that. It's really wrecking everything for her. So she wakes up again from this blackout and she sees this huge mural that kind of explains everything you said of his history and like and she sees herself basically in this mural painted as this white woman that's in love with him, or he's in love with her. We don't really know if it's mutual love or not.
He shows his love in very bizarre ways.
Yes. And yeah, that happens, the Candyman mural, and it's basically a very similar story of Dracula.
At that point it's like, okay, here's the story. If you haven't figured it out by now, here's your plot dump right before the end, which is a great way to do it. It's like, you know what, it's like, all right, just if they haven't figured it out by now, you tell them right at the end of the movie.
Yep. And I can't remember how we get to the bonfire, but I do know
she blacks out again.
Okay.
Yeah, and
this is becoming a little bit of like a very convenient plot device.
Yeah, Candyman just has passing out powers. He can just make her pass out whenever he wants to. It's just like.
So she wakes up in the
giant pile
bonfire
of
pile
because
and she hears the baby crying.
Yeah, because they have a yearly bonfire at the projects because she's in the projects, and so it's where they just bring all their trash together and have a giant bonfire for some reason. And
yeah.
That's
nice. Yeah, so she's in this just bonfire that's not lit at this point, but she hears this baby crying, so she's crawling towards it, trying to find this baby, and of course one of the little kids sees a crawling figure in this bonfire, and he's like, oh my god, it's a Candyman. Oh my god, we gotta light this. There's a Candyman. We gotta go light the thing. And so he goes, oh my goodness, gotta go light it. So he does it. They pour all the gasoline on there and light it, and so then it becomes very dramatic when they're trying to, or Helen is trying to get the baby. She gets the baby, and sounds like the song from Sleeping Beauty.
It's essentially the music that's playing through all of it.
Oh wait, or is it not Sleeping Beauty? It's from Snow White.
Yeah, it's very whimsical and it's just kind of nice to, I guess, juxtapose the fact that she's on fire. Poor Helen's lit on fire trying to get this baby out to thwart Candyman's plan, and so she gets the baby, saves the baby from the fire, and poor Helen gets lit on fire in the process very badly. She's so very, very
Bonbon Boy. Bonbon Boy dies.
Bonbon Boy explodes into a giant pile of bees.
Yes, he does. It's a huge pile of bees. It's an explosion of bees, but she gets the baby out, even though she's basically burnt to a crisp in the process, and the baby is unhurt.
Yes, the baby is saved. Yeah. Helen is not so saved. Poor Helen. She's a tragic character.
It was really cool to see at her funeral. It was just at first it was just Trevor and the stupid girlfriend, and then you see the whole community from that
the project
area, the project. They come and support her at her funeral. And the ending was a little bit satisfying, thankfully, because we do see Trevor is sad and depressed because his shitty girlfriend is actually just like
shitty, stupid idiot who pays their house pink.
She painted the house pink and she's like cooking steak and she's being super passive aggressive and annoying. And so Trevor runs to the bathroom and Trevor runs to the bathroom and is missing Helen. And so he says her name 5 times in the mirror, hoping to summon her. And he does. But it's the scary burnt Helen and she murders
scary
him.
burnt Helen.
And then the girlfriend finds him all murdered and screams.
Yeah, well,
in the end.
Oh, because that's another thing. Yeah, because when at the funeral, the mother of the little baby that she saves drops Candyman's hook into her grave.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And she has the hook when she kills fucking Trevor, and she just like slashes the shit out of him with Candyman's hook. So she's kind of like the new Candyman. Helen
okay.
Man.
Helen.
Although I don't know who else is gonna say Helen in the mirror 5 times. It's very specific. Helen.
It is.
Helen.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I can't. I don't want to. But yeah, that's a good synopsis of CANDYMAN, Bon Boy.
It's still a little bit long. I could work on it a little bit. But yeah, there you go. Very eloquent description this time.
Yeah, well, again, it's like that's kind of the main part because the gore in it is very kind of like just post murder. You don't see any sort of like tearing of flesh or like terrible like close-ups of anything stabbing people. It's just kind of Candyman. He's got his giant hook, and you kind of see it always from behind, and you just see him kind of like lifting up and wrenching and kind of gutting people. That's kind of his go-to thing, is gutting people with his giant hook. So, although, yeah, definitely the way he sounds is very unnerving, I guess. Like the way he murders people, because, like, it's Wes Craven, or not Wes Craven, Clive Barker. So he's a creepy. He likes his creepy sex horror. So again, it has like this weird kind of like almost like sexual sound to it while he's like murdering people. And so it's like, yeah, that's just like off from what, because like, you don't hear that. It's just like this. It's like it's such a small thing, but it makes a big difference when you're like watching these murders. And it's interesting how they're able to like just kind of tweak one normal thing, that like the sound that the killer makes when he kills somebody. And it's like, oh, that makes a big difference. He's way creepier. Yeah, but other than that, the guy puts bees in his mouth. The actor has bees in his mouth. That's about the most scary thing. Bees. I don't want bees in my mouth. That'd be, I don't even know how you do that. Hopefully he had like a plastic
I hope
protector in his mouth. But you would, like, even on his lips, though, you couldn't do that because it was like you wouldn't want to see that. So, yeah. No, that's
I don't know how you would do that.
How the hell do you get them out afterwards? Okay, just stand still. We're just going to take the bees out of your mouth now. Don't move, or they might freak out and start stinging you.
It could very easily kill you.
You got stung enough, like, shitload of bees all over you, just freak out and start stinging you.
Trying to stay calm while that's happening, too.
Oh, and you're supposed to be, like, the spooky, eerie villain of the movie, too, so you don't want to look like you're freaking out.
Exactly.
So, bravo to that actor. That guy was famous forever just because of Candyman. He was great.
Yeah.
Anytime I saw him in anything else, I'm like, oh, it's Candyman.
That boy. That boy.
That boy. He's that boy. It's Candyman. That boy.
Did you find any little making of tidbits or extras?
No, not really for this movie, just because of the fact that it was like so simple. I guess it's just like the only thing it's just very famous in the Black community. Like, I know Jordan Peele. It's like kind of what inspired him to make horror movies is Candyman. So it's very famous for just the fact that there was never really Black representation in horror movies up to that point. So it's kind of famous for the fact that it actually is like focused around, the African American ghettos and the struggle of these people and the villain is a victim of racism himself. So
Mhm.
it was more kind of famous for that than anything else. Like it's just kind of helped, and it's also a really great horror movie. Like it's a kind of like Frankenstein. He kind of is like a classic horror movie villain. Like
Yeah, it feels
he's the
like it is.
tragic monster that, like, he didn't want to be Candyman. He just is Candyman because some dickheads did that to him. So it's I think that's why it kind of has like this very classic feel to it, and kind of is like I don't know, invokes like, yeah, Dracula and all these old Hammerstein movies because of the operatic music, and
Yeah.
even the way it's shot is very dramatic. A lot of like close-ups, like 50s style close-ups of faces, and it's also like not very gory, so it's more like in the environment and the atmosphere that the movie creates that kind of makes it
Mhm.
scary. So it's like when you tell someone, yeah, that's like, it's not very gory, like you're not going to be terrified by the gore, but it has a good kind of, I don't know, creepy feel to it because he's always like whispering to her and stuff. Also very Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Phantom
could
of
see
the
that.
Opera is always whispering shit to the woman Christine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
and I know because you're saying Jordan Peele, he was inspired by that movie and he created a remake of it. Um,
nice.
did you end up watching that
I
one?
Oh yes, I did watch it actually. Yeah, I watched it twice actually.
Yeah.
Not that's not an indication that it was extremely good. I
Oh,
just watched
no.
it once by myself, and I watched it
Okay.
Vanessa. But it okay. I applaud it for like what it was trying to do. I just think it kind of I don't think they thought about like how what they were trying to do in their movie would affect the I don't know how they didn't I think they missed the mark on what the original one was trying to do. Like kind of they lost that operatic, otherworldly, ethereal
Mm.
experience, and so they kind of made it more like a generic horror movie where
So they turned
Candyman.
it into a slasher movie.
Exactly. And literally at
Yeah.
the end of the movie, Candyman turns into kind of a slasher, and he's like floating around with bees all over his face, just murdering police officers, white police officers.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll get into that. But yeah, like I like the premise of it, but also it doesn't make any sense, and it kind of shits on the first movie. Poor Helen gets shit on
Oh,
because so what it is it takes place like 25 years, so it is a sequel to the original Candyman,
okay.
and so it's kind of has the same feel where there's this artist. He hears about Candyman from his girlfriend's brother, and he's kind of a struggling artist. He hasn't done anything really prolific in a long time, but he used to be popular. And
Mhm.
so he decides to go to Cabrini Green, but it's like now been gentrified. So he goes there and finds the original Candyman lair essentially in the new building, and he starts to research it, and he of course says Candyman, and he hears this story from this local laundromat guy, and he said there's a story about this guy in the 70s, and he was called Candyman, and he was like an escaped insane asylum guy, and he would just give people candy, kids candy. But then one Halloween, I guess there was razor blades in the candy, but that was also in the original Candyman, and it turns out that was Candyman who puts razor blades in candy for some reason.
Oh,
And so it turns out that it wasn't that guy, but the police beat him to death because they thought he was Candyman. And so this little boy had to watch all these white police officers beat this black guy to death, essentially. And that was the laundromat dude. And for some reason, that drove him insane and made him want to think about Candyman because he saw Candyman murder his brother who
huh.
said Candyman into the mirror.
Okay.
And so he's perfectly normal through 80% of the movie, but then he turns into cartoon villain guy where he's like, I'm going to summon Candyman. I'm his right-hand man, and I work for Candyman. It's like,
oh my god, okay.
like, oh, good. Candyman is
Weird.
a human disciple dickhead guy who works in a laundromat his whole life and then goes nuts and says, I'm going to work for Candyman now. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit with the laundromat dude. But it turns out that the story now about Cabrini Green and Candyman is that everyone thinks Helen was the villain, and that Helen was trying to kill the baby, and that the community saved the baby and stopped Helen from murdering them, and Helen's a villain in that community now, which makes no sense because at the end of Candyman, the entire community goes to like give their respect to her. So you think that they would probably tell the story to their kids, like, "Oh, hey, this woman saved this baby, not she's this horrible person that tried to kill the baby." So I was like, I don't know how. Yeah, I'm like, that's kind of shitty. Like Helen like died for this baby, and now she just gets shit on.
Yeah.
So the guy starts painting and he starts like hearing Candyman. He gets like possessed by the idea of Candyman, and so he's always at the scene of every murder that happens before Candyman kills them. He's always there, so like Candyman's kind of like following him for some reason in the mirror, and he eventually sees Candyman in the mirror, and it's himself, and he has a hook.
Damn.
And this is where it gets extra dumb. So it's Candyman has like killed 2 or 3 people at this point. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Then he finds out that he goes to his mom and he finds out that he is the baby from the original Candyman movie that Helen saves. And the mom at that point tells him that he was born in Cabrini Green and that Helen saved him. But I'm like, why wouldn't she fucking tell him at any point before that? Like, oh yeah, by the way, this wonderful woman saved your fucking life from Candyman. But they promised not to say the story because they were worried that it would summon Candyman again. So that's why they turned Helen into a villain, which I don't think makes a lot of sense. I'm like, you don't have to turn her into a dirtbag. You just say she saved a baby and died.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna... Yeah, that's silly.
Yeah, okay. So it was a little disappointing. And so the mom tells the kid that, and it turns out that laundromat psychopath kidnaps him so that he can turn him into the new Candyman. Somehow he's turning into Candyman, which is not really explained. The mom just eerily says to him, it's like, Candyman has a plan for you. I was like, yeah, Candyman did have a plan for him to burn in a fire. Like, that was his plan. He didn't, like, have, like, I'm going to turn you into Candyman, too, because I'm an evil monster that can just turn people into Candymen. Bonbon Boys. I'm going to have my band of Bonbon Boys.
Band of Bonbon Boys.
Candyman and the Bonbon Boys.
The Bonbon Boy couldn't... The Bonbon Boy couldn't kill the actual boy in the Bonbon fire, so...
That's a Candyman. You're just a Bonbon Boy. So, yeah, he's just gonna, like, make more Bonbon Boys. I guess that's how it works. Somehow he can just make more Candymen. And so, yeah, he cuts off... Like, he starts, like, having, like, weird hives all over his face. And, like, it looks like bee holes. So he kind of starts getting the bee body from Candyman, and then they're
bee holes.
Yeah, he gets bee holes. And then he starts like, and then he's in like he's in the candy cave with the big face, and the girlfriend arrives, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, you gotta stick to the tradition when you're making a Candyman. So I'm gonna cut off his hand," and he just like slices it off, and the guy doesn't react to it. He's like in a trance for some reason, which isn't explained. He's just in a Candyman trance. They cut off his hand and he jams a hook into it, and he just happens to have like a jacket that looks like the Candyman jacket. So I guess he just had all this shit lying around waiting for a chance to turn someone into a Candyman. And it's so stupid. He puts on his Candyman jacket and then he dies. And
Okay.
and then the police come. Well, the police come and kill him, and that's how he dies. And then the white police kill both the black guys, Candyman 2 and Crazy Laundromat guy. Bon
Wow.
Bon Boy's assistant. And the police put her in the car, and then there's like super douchey, overly racist white police officer that talks to her from the front seat, and he's like, okay, this can go one of two ways. Either you sign this report saying that we had to kill these people, or we blame the murders on you. And she's like this like high class art dealer who's supposed to go to New York for this like really prominent art job. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't think they would just immediately do that. Like, I understand there's a lot of racism and like police incidents, but like this seems like over the top, and like that
Yeah.
they would say all this shit directly to her. I don't know. I guess I could just be super ignorant and not understand, but it just seemed a little like over the top that like a police officer would just do this in the car. And so she's like, okay, I'll do it. But first I just want to see myself in the mirror. And he's like, what? He's like, okay. So he tilts the rear view mirror down to her, and she's like, Candyman, Candyman. She says it 5 times. And for some reason, her boyfriend comes. Oh, yeah, because so Laundromat guy says that he's building his new Candyman because he wants a Candyman that will fight for black people. he wants a Candyman that will only murder white people, even though up to this point, Candyman has murdered a shitload of ethnic people. But anyways, I guess this new Candyman that he's making is only going to murder white people. And so she summons Candyman, and Candyman, who is the artist boyfriend, murders everybody, but like he's just floating around. Like he's not even walking, he's just like floating off the ground. So it looks kind of stupid. I'm like, Candyman never flew in the original one.
Yeah.
He was like float off the ground, and like his whole face was covered in bees, like CG bees. So it's just like, and he's just like, so it kind of seems like the bees are carrying his whole body or something. And so, like, are the bees like holding?
Like his head is just bees flying, holding a body.
That's what it looks like. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, it's so stupid. Yeah, so
funny.
he's just like this floating bee dude, and he just like slashes people with his hook for a hand. And then she gets out of the car, and like the very last shot of the movie is her seeing the new Candyman, who is her boyfriend. But then the bees reveal the face of the original Candyman, and then he says, "Be my victim," to a black woman, even though he's supposed to only kill white people. So it's like, so the new Candyman turned into the old Candyman. Does that mean he's still? I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what is that? It's just
chaotic.
It's just a way to put in the original Candyman dude. Like, he's in one scene at the very end, and it makes like no sense. Like, I thought he was supposed to be the new one. Why is he just the old one then? Like, you just wanted to put him in the movie. So the movie's not that great when you really think about it, but it's an entertaining enough movie.
Okay.
It's like,
yeah, you describing it feels very chaotic.
Yeah.
And like there's not like it's losing its point a lot. It's a lot for show.
Yeah, they focus on the art part a lot because like he's an artist, she's an art dealer. There's like a whole art show in it where he's trying to do Candyman paintings, and like the people that buy his paintings get murdered by Candyman, I believe. So I don't know, it's weird. And he becomes a popular artist because his paintings involve Candyman get murders, so with more murders his art becomes more popular for some reason. And yeah, but that wasn't really the point of the original one, though. The original one is like this like weird like romance, like this gothic horror of like this poor guy who got murdered and now is a horrible monster himself, and like the projects, and it seemed to kind of just lose its focus on that. Like it didn't really show any like poor black people. Like, shouldn't that be the focus of it? That's how they're struggling, and like they didn't really like the end of the movie takes place in like a poor neighborhood, but it's not like he really that's part of it. Like, I don't know. It's assumed it was in a lot of like uppity rich people neighborhoods for the most part. So I don't know. Yeah, it kind of lost its point, I think.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Because there's a lot of charm in the first one with just keeping the narrative fairly simple and keeping his backstory clear. So
Yeah.
like you as an audience member could very easily make sense of why he is doing the things he's doing. He had a fucked up history and he's in love with this person, and she's
Yeah.
this reincarnation of it, and it's done in a way where it's clear enough and it's not spelling everything out to you right away. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just like it's a
Yeah,
clever
it peels
setup,
away the story
delivery.
well. And like
Yeah.
like I would say Helen's descent into madness is a lot better than this dude's kind of descent into madness, because they
Yeah.
try to do the same thing where, you know, he thinks he's seeing Candyman, but no one else believes him. But it's just like he never
Yeah.
gets sent to an insane asylum. He never has to kind of do the things that Helen goes through, where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, she gets it way worse. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really
It's
give a shit when this guy got his hand cut off and turned into a bee man.
It's interesting hearing you talk about it now that I've seen the original movie, because when I saw that version of the movie, the remake or the sequel, I guess,
Yeah.
advertised, I kind of wrote it off as just like a cheap slasher movie, and I was like, I like Jordan Peele and I liked Get
Mm-hmm.
Out. I didn't hate Us,
Yeah.
but like I really, again, really liked Get Out, but yeah, so I was kind of like, I don't know, this doesn't look like a movie I'd be interested in seeing, because it just kind of reminded me of when I watched the trailer for like the new Halloween movie when they brought everybody back, and it's
Yeah.
just this new fancy horror movie with a big budget, and it's just going to be a cheap slasher blockbuster with not much story or not much point to it. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
what's the point? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
but I
can be a great slasher, because I would say every Friday the 13th movie has absolutely no point to it whatsoever.
yeah.
But they're fun because they
At least
know that
with
they're
Friday the
making
13th.
garbage. They know that they're making
Yeah.
trash, so they make it trashy. And it's fun to watch trashy stuff, because they're like they know that they can be just like crass and like murder people in
Yeah.
disgusting ways, and you know,
Like, at least with Friday the 13th, it does kind of make sense since the original is literally a slasher movie. But
yeah.
with this one, it's kind of disappointing that they turned it into that, because this
Yeah.
movie has a lot more depth to it than just being a slasher. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
he doesn't kill too many people in the beginning of and through most of the movie, but the end of the movie he becomes a slasher, because he's like he just kills like 20 people at the end of the movie. There's a
Oh
bunch of
wow.
cops
Okay.
shooting guns at him, and it's like this big murder action scene. I'm like, nah, I don't think this needs to be in a Candyman movie. I
No.
was much more tense when I saw a woman climbing through a flaming pile of garbage. Like, that
Yeah.
was way more tense.
That was a tense moment.
You
Yeah.
didn't want that baby to burn. You know, that's like way more emotionally impactful than watching a guy float around with a face full of bees just killing people with a hook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's good to know.
yeah.
Maybe skip that one if you haven't seen it.
I would imagine,
But
I haven't seen it, but there's also Candyman 2 and 3. They did make sequels to
oh,
Candyman.
okay.
I think the second
Curious how
one.
that one is.
I think the second one is about Helen. I think it has to do with Helen being
Okay.
Candyman. So I don't know. Maybe one day we will attempt to watch. Cause I've never watched them, because I'm always hesitant to watch any horror movie sequel, just because they're
Yeah.
generally all trash.
Generally not great.
No,
Yeah,
not at
one
all.
day.
But
And
who
I
knows?
guess to finish this episode off, I didn't get to finish the whole novella
Yeah.
that Clive Barker wrote, but basically from what I heard, it was very, very similar
Oh, okay.
to the movie. The only difference is that the original story revolves around themes of the British class system in contemporary Liverpool.
Oh, that makes sense.
And Rose, who rewrote the script, she chose to refit the story to Cabrini Green's public housing development. Or
Yeah.
Rose is the last name of the director.
Oh, okay.
Right? What's it?
Yeah. Oh, I cannot remember her name. I would have no idea. A lady.
Rose, not Rose. Rose is the last name of the director, and he is a man.
Oh, he is a man. He is a man.
Oh my god. Yeah, he refit the story to Cabrini Green's public housing development in Chicago and instead focus themes on race and social class in the inner city United States.
Wow, good for him. That was a good change. That was very relatable. Was it still about like a guy who has a hook for a hand?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Was he called Candyman?
It's called Forbidden. That's the name of the short story, and it was in the Books of Blood, Volume 5 by Clive Barker. Okay, director's Bernard Rose.
Oh, so
Bernard Rose. No, he refit the story to be about the Cabrini Green neighborhood.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that was a great.
Yeah. I think it was a very, very good, very well done commentary. Would definitely suggest watching it. It's be a really good movie to watch over Halloween.
Yes, that is a fun Halloween movie to watch. Yeah. Gather around your friends and watch it, and then dare each other to go and say Candyman in the mirror 5 times. I freaking dare you. If you say you're an atheist, just do it. I just want to know.
If you die, comment under the video.
Let us know if you're dead.
Let us know.
Yeah. Tell us you're going to do it.
Or if you're live, you can comment it too.
Yeah.
I we don't get very many comments.
Yeah. Anybody wants to say anything.
We just get one comment that's like, I'm alive.
I'm alive.
Not dead yet.
I'm not
dead yet.
It's Thursday.
We'll see. I'll let you know by the end of the week.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
from Gorehead The Wiener, just make sure you don't eat too much candy or you'll die.
Or exactly. Don't eat too much candy or you'll die. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right, podcast's over.